My name is Alicia James, and my program is the Masters of Arts program in Urban Studies. For my thesis, my topic was a policy memorandum on why physical punishment of children in the United States should be outlawed. For the research question, it was, how does a greater understanding of physical punishment against children aid in the enactment of legislation to prohibit its use? My literature review was initially organized in three main clusters. So the three broad clusters I used were: 1, description, background, and overview of physical punishment. The second cluster was why physical punishment is not recommended. And the third cluster was support for physical punishment. I started out on Google to see if it's trending, to see if there were any current debates on the topic, and Google led me to professional organizations like the American Association of Pediatrics. And when I went to that site, I looked at their sources, and I was led to other sites, and I noticed that there was a similarity in the sources. They used peer-reviewed articles. I noticed that some of the authors kept recurring, so there were prominent authors in that research. And from there, I went on to more formal platforms like library databases, and I knew that I had to focus on the names that recurred throughout, and I selected articles, with those authors. I narrowed my search by using keywords, key ideas like physical punishment in the United States, effects of physical punishment, and I also used dates. I tried not to go beyond 5 to 10 years, so those were parameters that I used. And in terms of the actual articles, I tried to find a combination of articles, some articles that focused mostly on theory, while others the researcher actually did a study, so from there I could extract data. So I tried to use a blend of theory-based articles and articles where studies were done. The abstract typically gives a succinct overview, and within the abstract I could see some of the theory, I could see how the study was done, some of the findings, so I used that. I read the introduction, and looked at the tone of the author, and I also looked at the conclusion to see if the findings were relevant to what I wanted to present in my review. I allowed the articles to guide me, I allowed the authors to guide me, and I looked at their in-text citations, and if they had a citation next to an argument that I found compelling, I looked at that citation, and if it was within my time frame, if it was pretty recent, then I would sort of find that original source and use it. Initially, I just did a read-through. I read through once, and my second reading involved highlighting. I highlighted main ideas, key ideas, and from there on, I started to summarize, my findings, summarize the key theory. Articles that I selected, I did read them fully, but I didn't use them to the same extent within my paper. So for some articles, perhaps only like a sentence relied on that source. And with others, I used them to a greater extent, so several paragraphs relied on that particular source. Elicit feedback from your professor. That's one thing that helped me. So each time she read my draft, she would sort of give me feedback, and I thought that she was just giving me more work, but it made my paper stronger because she challenged me to find a counter-narrative, to find a conflicting theory, and I was able to reconcile those theories at the end. And I would say use the writing center. I've been out of school for many years prior to attending CUNY, but I always felt that I was a decent writer and I didn't need writing support. But after my paper was reviewed by Michael from the Writing Center, I was humbled. I received support in terms of the structure. He helped me with organizing my paper by showing me what ideas would work better under a particular section. I also received feedback with word usage, terminologies that are better suited for academic writing. And I also got critique on the soundness of my arguments. You know, are they compelling? So I would say use the Writing Center. It's a valuable resource, and it doesn't hurt to get a second set of eyes. And those were some of the tips those were some of the things that worked for me with the literature review.